nation, garage to global.
Welcome. Jules Lund here on Disrupt Radio. Today on Startup Nation, we chat about some really sexy topics, risk and compliance. I know. Before you switch off, let me sell it to you. Is your business at risk? Could you be the next cyber hacking story? Are you playing a part in human trafficking? We're going to answer these important questions, plus AI. I don't know about you, but my board of my startup keeps bringing up AI. What am I doing? They're asking me. I'm Chief Innovation Officer. I'm feeling the pressure to get my head across it. Are you using it? Should you be? We're going to chat about how not to fall behind with the fast-paced tech innovation evolving in front of our very eyes. And this is going to be with Lisa, one of my faves, one of the great entrepreneurs, and you'll learn why. She is a triple threat. She's smart, she's talented, and she's hardworking. And also, today is our deep dive, neurodivergence in the workplace. Do you really understand how this impacts your staff and business? Maybe even your own work patterns. And do you have strategies in place to support your staff? Holy moly, I've just asked you a lot of rhetorical questions. And here's the tip, they're not rhetorical, so I hope you were answering them as I went along. I expect the very best. I want you to be attentive. It's going to be an awesome show. Stick around. We're going to go on a deep dive with experts in every field.
Entrepreneurs live here.
They do live here. I found one. I lured him in with Krispy Kreme donuts, and then he didn't want one, which I don't believe. He's going to take it on the way out. He doesn't want to be on a sugar high. I'm joined by Adam Wood, co-founder and CEO at Certified By, who's a bloody clever man. He's made a business from what most would consider mind-numbingly boring. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Jules. Very much so.
So we spoke to a man who I like to call Hash Brown the other day. So I asked Hash Brown from Impera, and I won't even attempt to explain what Impera does, but another killer startup. I said, who are you watching out there? What are you impressed by? And he said, Certified By. So we thought we'd invite you in to teach us what entrepreneurs probably sweep under the carpet, try to avoid, not because they don't like it, but because they're intimidated because they don't understand it. So risk and compliance. So without putting us to sleep, this is why I bought the sugar for me, tell us what you do.
The sexy world of risk and compliance has said nobody ever. And a big shout out to Ash. I had lunch with him today. He's a legend.
Who paid?
He did, which was...
you should have, mate. He got you in here.
I know. And I forgot to say thanks. So thanks, Ash. Look, risk and compliance, mate, not something I wanted to get into, it was not a burning ambition. Mum and dad, family business background in an even more boring debt collection and risk management and investigation was the business that I was born into. Mum and dad built a business into about 100 countries, a partnership.
Wow.
And so I was sort of born into this global business that had a footprint everywhere. By the time I came into the business, because I tried to resist it as long as I could, because what kid wants to be a debt collector?
Yeah.
But once I understood the business that he created and that it needed to have a succession plan, I stepped in and realised the business was on its feet. It was on its knees, sorry.
Yep.
And the problem was risk and compliance for us. We were servicing banks and telcos and healthcare companies, and we had a thriving business, and cybersecurity, quality assurance, third-party risk management became a real issue. We started to see it in all of our contracts.
Why?
Because of expectations from our clients.
Okay, so you're normally just looking after clients, and regulation changes, and then all of a sudden they're going, all right, we have to literally sew this thing up and make all of our contracts and everything airtight. Yep. And then all of a sudden that flow-on effect means that you've got to dip into your pockets and try to level up.
Yep. So we'd worked for clients for years who were happy that we could provide a service, but then cybersecurity, quality assurance, all these standards that became the norm were filtered into the contract. So for us to just keep the clients that were happy with the service we provided, we needed to upskill, exactly, and we needed a compliance framework, and we needed to be able to show them that we were a trusted vendor to them.
Okay, and so now Certified By, how did that come about?
So we looked all around the world for an off-the-shelf compliance framework, and it's an enterprise game. It's a bit like cybersecurity. It's very expensive. It's very complicated. We were a network of mostly SMEs or small and medium-sized businesses, and to put an ISO or an international standards type framework in front of it, most SMEs would just never get completed. So we looked all around the world for an off-the-shelf compliance framework specifically for smaller businesses, and didn't exist. So we built something ourselves to tackle this issue. Never tried to sell it, or the vision was never to sell it. It was just to sort of reimagine and modernise the business, and took it back to a couple of the banks, and they said, can we licence it off you? And then the penny dropped that we might be onto something bigger than just our own needs, and now we've been on like a 4 or 5 year journey trying to turn this tool that we built for ourselves into a startup that could solve problems for a bigger audience of SMEs.
The old AWS spin-off.
Yeah,
so can you, because I'm not smart enough, can you give us the overview of AWS? Do you know that one?
Oh, not in great detail.
You're on the risk and compliance. He doesn't want to overstate it.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be an expert in every form, but no. Obviously, it was a spin-off that they needed. They needed to solve a problem, and they built something out of it, which is a little bit like what we've done. Yeah,
so Amazon, obviously the greatest retailer on the planet, online retailer, has effectively built something to help all of their internal software needs and to be a unbelievable bulletproof process. And then they went, this is so good, we're going to license it. And then that was AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. And the revenue that they drive off that is, I don't know what it is comparatively to their original business, but being able to think of, right, how do we use the stuff that we have built here for alternate uses? And funnily enough, I was just talking about our board. We had a board meeting this morning, and Will Dean from Exto Partners is on our board. He's a VC, and he's been with my company since the start, pretty much. I think Series A, and that's exactly what he was saying. Is like you've put tens of millions of dollars into software here. How else can you use this software, with a couple of tweaks? You've got this unbelievable plumbing. How else are you able to offer other customers this sort of streamlining process? And we have done similar things to that. So that's great, mate. Congratulations. So entrepreneurs, can they afford this? And I suppose you're white labelling it. And for those who don't know what white labelling is, it basically means that you can stick your own logos, branding, colours on top of it, so you can customise it and tailor it to your branding. So when people come to this sort of framework within your software, it looks like you've built it, like it's proprietary tech, which means it's built and owned by you. And in actual fact, it's just like plug it in and, whack some paint onto it. So is that what entrepreneurs can access?
Yep. And so it's probably, you've just touched on how we pivoted a little bit too. So we originally built this naively thinking that we could tap into SMEs and sell directly to them, or small or medium businesses. Found that to be a greater challenge than perhaps what we thought. And so we've pivoted to a tops-down approach where you're right. We white label the platform to trusted advisors, so accountants and lawyers and insurance brokers who already have that relationship with the SME. And so we can provide our tool, our diagnostic and remediation tool, to the trusted advisor to make them look better and to provide a better service to their customers.
Gotcha. Talk to me about why we should care about risk and compliance.
Depends on the vertical you're in. Cybersecurity is synonymous across any industry, right? If you have a website, if you have customer data, we've all seen the bad stories of Optus and everybody else where a hack, everybody's susceptible for a hack. Hackers are coming after SMEs because they know they're more vulnerable. So if you don't want to be on the headline of the next newspaper story around cyber, that's one, is risk is to prevent brand reputational damage.
But small businesses are they're a bit safer because they're not bigger targets, are they?
They may not be on the front page of the newspaper, but they will. There's consequences of a risk.
Consequences, but are they less targeted?
No, not at all. No, SMEs are equally targeted as big business because they're easy to penetrate. Big businesses have robust security practices. SMEs not so much. So they're an easier target to attack as well.
Why are with cyber security and cyber hackers? What are they doing? Is it like kidnapping a dog and saying, "Here's ransom, you got to pay us"?
Ransomware, malware, ransomware.
So they're just going, all right, we're going to take all the data and the personal details of all your clients, and we're going to kidnap that. We're going to hold it, and if you don't want us to release it, just pay us cash. Is it as simple as that?
Yep, and that, to some degree, and then they'll also sell that information on the dark web or on the deep web.
Yeah, gotcha.
To people who want to do fake IDs and create alternative.
Yeah. Have you seen entrepreneurs dodge this stuff and end up in strife?
Yeah, I think, and whether it's dodged it intentionally, it's just risk and compliance is boring, and you're just worried about growth, right?
And it's on your to-do list, and it just keeps, it's like quicksand, most people's to-do list, and it just keeps sinking further down. It's not that you're avoiding it, it's just that more important things go above it.
Yep, absolutely. And then once you do open your eyes to it, it's pretty complex. And so you might start it and then you put it away.
Yeah.
And then unless you've got an enterprise GRC or governance risk and compliance tool, which is super expensive and complicated, how do you manage it? Where do you start and where do you finish, and how do you document it? That's the challenge we're trying, or the problem we're trying to solve, is that there's a central place. Our tool is assess, report, remediate, and then certify methodology. So this starts with an assessment. Where are you at, right? Identify the risks that you've got, and then work towards a remediation or an improvement plan. And where do you document that? When you improve things, how do you evidence that? And then how do you know that you're complete, and for what purpose, right? It's to show your stakeholders, whether it's your insurer or your clients or your regulator or your staff, that you are taking these matters seriously. And it's not just cyber risk. You think about people and culture is another great example, where HR and health and safety is like your legal obligations. But people and culture, everybody wants to work for an employer of choice, right? They want to feel warm and fuzzy. Mental health is on the rise. So there's a whole range of risks that businesses need to address or should be looking to address. And we're trying to micro-credential that in some way. So not have one big program that covers every part of risk. We've got a cyber program, we've got a workplace essential program, we've got an ESG or sustainability program, and we're a modern slavery program, as you mentioned before. We're sort of building out specific, for-purpose need programs, which allows a business to assess, report, remediate and certify. Modern slavery, it's not a term I thought I would have ever heard, but I do want to unpack that a little bit. It's Jules Lund here with Adam Wood, co-founder and CEO of Certified By, which is a boring but awesome business, making risk and compliance a strategic advantage. Up next, we're going to look at how you might be unwittingly playing a part in this human trafficking.
Startup Nation. Entrepreneurs live here.
This is Disrupt Radio with me, Jules Lund. In the studio is Adam Wood, co-founder and CEO of Certified By, who's making boring risk and compliance easy and awesome for business. But if he puts my 13-year-old daughter asleep, she's a teenager, so she falls asleep pretty easily anyway. I brought her in the studio as a litmus test. If she stays off her phone, you've passed the test, Adam. Billy, what do you know about risk and compliance?
That it's boring but awesome. Yeah,
that's not a bad start. That's pretty good.
Good answer.
A good answer. So we're going to talk, ironically, about modern slavery and unwittingly becoming part of exploiting kids. Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't know what is there risk and compliance around me just dragging my daughter in here for entertainment purposes?
Well, it depends on what you're paying her, mate. That's where the modern slavery.
Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's right.
So what are you talking about modern slavery? Like because I travel a lot and I go through airports and I'm surprised at how many posters are talking to me about, like, can you notice slavery?
Yeah.
How does that work within the workplace?
Yeah, the day-to-day side of it is in your supply chain, and so where you're sourcing information from, and are they using child labour? Are those children being exploited, whether it be financially or with health and safety practices or whatnot? And it's very hard to measure whether or not, from an Australian standard or a Western standard, we all more often than not, source materials and products from developing countries, and so there's clearly different standards on that. There's the worst case, it's a spectrum. So worst case is trafficking of children and those sort of worst case scenarios, which are sadly on the rise. You'd be surprised how big an issue that is, and it's a growing issue, sadly. We're not exposed to it as much here. It's not an often talked about issue. But then more practically from a business perspective is how do you assess whether or not the suppliers that you're using are participating participating in the broader spectrum of modern slavery.
Is it as simple as having a certificate?
No, you've got to look into it. You've got to speak to and investigate your vendors. So if you're buying,
But I mean, do they have a certificate? Like how? Is it like going? All right, guys, I want to know that you're hunky dory here. So are you compliant that I can work with you?
Yes.
Do you follow all of these regulations, etc.?
Yes. To some degree, yes. It's very hard for an Australian business to verify a third party overseas and their practices.
Yep.
So they need to provide you some level of assurance. And one way to do that would be whether it be going to get consulting and assurance, providers to provide verified evidence that they're not doing that, or we're trying to make it a little easier and make it automated online. So a business overseas could do a program, do an assessment, evidence that they are in fact not active in these areas, and then a certificate would be one way for an Australian business to verify that their vendors are not, participating in that.
Awesome. Okay, so we've ticked off cyber security, we've ticked off modern slavery. Mm-hmm. What is the most common other one that we need to be really careful of? And keep in mind that I've seen my daughter reach for a phone 3 times. She's doing really... how are you going there? You need another donut, Billy?
Yes.
Yes.
Wrong answer.
But do I get another one? Or were you joking? Don't tell me you're joking.
Have at it. That is.
I'll just have a glazed one.
All right, she's going for a second.
Yep.
School holidays.
All right, I'll make this a little bit more fun. People and culture.
You better, mate. You better. Are you running out of donuts?
Yes. How do employers care about their staff? Do their staff want to come to work? Is this a fun workplace to be in? Billy, looks like it that way when you've got donuts and a cool dad. So there's risks externally to a business, but there's obviously internal risks. And so are you compliant with and are you making sure that your staff, that your health and safety environment is, meeting your legal requirements, not least best practice? Is your HR practices there? So there's legal requirements to make sure you manage your people effectively. And then there's, obviously we know about mental health, the rise of mental health issues and whatnot. So looking after your people is a really, really important one.
Okay, so certifiedby.com, how would the entrepreneurs listening right now use you guys?
Yep. So go to the website, certifiedby.com. If people and culture was an area of interest, then we've got a workplace essential program. Just go to there, click on sign up, start. It's a SaaS-based platform or software as a service, so anyone can go in there, click a button, sign up for a program and start the assessment.
Okay, so, and then I'm going through almost like online learning, but it's an audit and I'm paying you for that process.
Yep.
And then the spin-off is a white label where businesses can sort of give their own branding to that.
Their own version of that.
Westpac, for instance, and they can supply that to possibly their own partners or...
Or think about large accounting firms and advisory firms. So they would be a white label customer of ours. So we could give that platform to them for them to manage that for their customers. So it's a two-sided platform really. If a business wants to address this, they go to the website, sign up for a program. We'll be in touch with them. They can do it all completely automated themselves. The assessment then triggers over into the risk report, which then triggers into the action management module, which is where they can start doing things. And they can reach out to us. We'll be in touch with them as well. So we're always there to hold a hand, but the idea of it's self-help, and that's why we're trying to make it way cheaper and way more simplified and easy for a business to start this.
Yeah, because it's not very exotic.
No.
Although you do have an exotic name, Adam Wood. So I'm just digging into you. So tell me this. It's better than me calling you Hash Brown like your mate, but what do you do for fun?
Football, basketball, sport. Love me sport. We go camping.
And you're covered in tats.
Oh, I'm not covered. I've got my boys' names on my arms.
You look bloody cooler than you sound, let me tell you. You can check him out. He's in a risk and compliance calendar shoot next Wednesday. All right. Hey, Adam, thanks for dropping by. We really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Great insights. How are you doing there, Billy?
That's good.
She's good. She's just finishing.
I'll have a donut.
All right, you can have one, mate. All right, up next, are you making the most of AI? Are you using it at all? Next, we're going to demystify AI and chat about how it can help make your life a breeze.